She used her husband's power to try and destroy my studio. I exposed everything at a city hearing. She lost her reputation, her marriage, and the power she once used to humiliate me. The woman who ruined my teenage years just enrolled her daughter in my dance studio and pretended not to know me. When I saw her walk in, wearing a designer blouse and sunglasses like she was stepping onto a red carpet instead of the scuffed floors of my little studio, I felt my stomach drop. It had been 15 years. I thought maybe time would dull the anger, the shame, the raw panic. But the second she smiled like we were strangers, it all came rushing back. My name's Callie. I'm 32 and I own a community dance studio in a small arts district just outside the city. I teach ballet and contemporary classes to kids, teens, and a group of older women who jokingly call themselves the Bend and Snap Brigade. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. I built it from nothing after clawing my way out of the mess high school left me in. Fiona Langston was the reason I almost didn't graduate. She wasn't just popular. She was the kind of girl teachers adored, moms tried to emulate, and classmates feared in that subtle, silent way. I was the scholarship girl. There on talent, not money. When Fiona accused me of stealing the costume jewelry used in our school's winter recital, no one asked for proof. The school quietly asked me to step down from the performance team. My scholarship evaporated the same week. I was humiliated. My mom cried in the principal's office, begging them to reconsider. I quit dancing for nearly 4 years. It took everything in me to come back. And now she's here, in my space, holding the hand of a little girl named Margot and acting like she's just another parent. I told myself it didn't matter. Maybe she didn't recognize me. Maybe I could just breathe through it, keep things professional. The studio is my livelihood, my escape. I wasn't going to let a ghost from my past haunt it. But ghosts don't just haunt, they possess. A week after Fiona's visit, I got a call from my landlord. "We're not renewing your lease," he said bluntly. "We've accepted an offer from a developer. You have 45 days to vacate." I laughed. I thought it was a joke. But he was serious. He sounded almost guilty. When I pressed, he admitted a city councilman's office had been urging the owners on this block to consider redevelopment. He wouldn't say who, but I didn't have to ask. I looked it up. Fiona's husband, Thomas Langston, is a rising star in local politics. He's spearheading a new urban revitalization plan for the district. Code for high-end condos, boutique fitness chains, and of course, campaign donors. Suddenly it all clicked. Fiona wasn't just here as a mom. She was scouting. And I'd been her target the second she recognized me. I wanted to scream, to flip every mirror in the studio, to rip the bar off the wall and throw it through the window. But instead, I did what I've always done. I shut down the class early, locked the doors, turned off the lights, and sat on the floor until my legs went numb. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was a coincidence. Then I found the flyer taped to my front door the next morning. Studio closure means opportunity. Coming soon, Langston Arts Academy. Excellence meets prestige. Same location, same services, just not me. I stood there shaking, holding the cheap glossy paper in my hands as traffic passed by like nothing had changed. But something had changed. I was done being the quiet girl who let things slide. I had fought too hard to build this life. I wasn't going to let Fiona Langston erase me again. I just didn't know how far she was willing to go. That afternoon, I got an email from an unknown sender. No text. Just an audio file attachment titled, "For Callie. Use this wisely." I hesitated. Then I hit play. And the voice that came through made my blood run cold. "How much will it take to speed up the eviction process? She's just a dance teacher. Nobody will care." It was Fiona. The second I heard her voice on that recording, something cracked inside me. She's just a dance teacher. Nobody will care. I'd always known Fiona could be cruel, but hearing her casually try to erase my entire livelihood like it was an item on her to-do list, that hit differently. That wasn't high school pettiness. That was calculated adult malice. I listened to the file 3 times. The voice was unmistakably hers. Calm, detached. She even laughed at one point. Laughed like the thought of displacing me was some inside joke between her and whoever she was talking to. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my desk staring at the email, wondering who sent it. There was no name, no message, just, "For Callie. Use this wisely." I didn't know what to do. Who would even believe me? Fiona's married to a city councilman. I run a dance studio for kids. This wasn't a fair fight. The next morning, I tried to pretend everything was normal. I opened the studio, hung up the Welcome Dancers sign, and greeted the Tuesday afternoon toddler class with my usual smile. But the moment the last parent left and the doors clicked shut, I felt the weight of it all crash down. I started crying as I swept glitter off the floor. I wasn't crying because I was weak. I was crying because it wasn't fair. I had clawed my way back from the humiliation Fiona caused in high school. I built this place with my own 2 hands. Late nights, ramen dinners, begging for donations to buy mirrors, offering free classes just to get people in the door. And now it was all unraveling. Worse yet, the attacks started ramping up. First, there was a random health inspection. The inspector looked uncomfortable the whole time and admitted off the record that someone had called in a complaint about improper sanitation. He found nothing wrong. Of course he didn't. I cleaned that studio like it's a hospital. But even so, the damage was done. Moms started pulling their kids from classes just in case. Then my studio's Google page got hit with a wave of 1-star reviews. All from accounts with no pictures, no history. One said their child came home with bruises and cried for hours. Another said I was emotionally unstable and accused me of screaming at a child during rehearsal. I wanted to scream at them. I've never raised my voice at any kid, ever. But none of that mattered. Perception is everything. Enrollment dropped 30% in 1 week. I started dipping into my rent money just to cover payroll. My assistant Layla offered to work for free. She said, "We'll ride it out, Miss Callie." But her voice shook when she said it. The worst part? Fiona kept showing up, always with Margot, always smiling like nothing was wrong. She even brought cupcakes one day for the class. Said it was to sweeten the mood. I wanted to throw them out the window. Instead, I took one and smiled back. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. But inside, I was unraveling. And then came the envelope. It arrived in the mail with no return address. Just my name, printed neatly in bold letters. I opened it, thinking it might be more fake complaints or threats. Instead, it was a flyer, just like the one I found on my door. But this one had my face on it. A picture of me from the studio website, smiling next to a child mid-rehearsal. Across the top in bold red letters, "Would you trust her with your child?" Below it was a paragraph of fake testimonials, all accusing me of things I'd never done. One even said I'd been investigated for misconduct in another city. I've never lived anywhere else. My hands shook, my legs gave out. I slid to the studio floor and stared at the paper for what felt like an hour. I knew then this wasn't just about redevelopment. This was personal. Fiona didn't just want my business gone. She wanted me erased. And just when I thought I couldn't take another blow, my landlord called. "Callie, we need to talk. I got an offer. From the Langstons. They want to buy the building outright." I was silent. They said if you're out within 15 days, there's a cash bonus. I swallowed the lump in my throat. So I'm not even worth 45 days anymore? There was a pause. "I'm sorry, Callie, but they said if you refuse, they'll go public with some things. Stuff they claim to have on you." I felt like I was suffocating. But what he said next chilled me to the bone. "They showed me pictures, Callie, of you, in your apartment. At night, when my landlord said they had pictures of me, in my own apartment, I couldn't breathe. I live alone, above my studio. It's a small loft, nothing fancy. But it's my safe place. Or, I thought it was." I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "What do you mean they have photos of me?" He sounded nervous. "I didn't see all of them. Just one. You were sitting by the window, drinking tea, I think. It was nighttime." My stomach dropped. That window doesn't face the street. It faces the alley. No one should be able to see in, unless they were standing right there, watching me. I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands were shaking as I grabbed a flashlight and ran down the back stairs into the alley. It was raining lightly, the kind of cold mist that soaks through your shirt before you realize it. I scanned the space. There, wedged behind a stack of discarded pallets, was a small, black motion-triggered camera. I stared at it, horrified. I wanted to scream. Throw it. Smash it. Instead, I pulled my hoodie tight and went back inside, locking every window and door. The next morning, I brought the camera to the police. The officer barely looked up from his desk. "If you didn't catch them in the act, there's not much we can do." I found it pointed at my window. My voice was shaking. "Isn't that illegal?" He shrugged. "Private property. Could have been placed there by a neighbor. You got any proof someone was spying on you?" "I have motive," I snapped. "And a suspect." "Let me guess. Someone rich?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He sighed. "Look, you can file a report, but without footage or a name, it's gonna go nowhere." I filed the report anyway. But I walked out of that station knowing I was on my own. Back at the studio, things had only gotten worse. 3 more parents pulled their kids from class. Someone slashed my car tires during lunch. I started getting texts from a private number saying things like, "You really think anyone cares?" And "You should have left quietly." I was spiraling. That night, I sat in the dark, staring at my phone, re-listening to Fiona's voice from the audio file. I don't know why I kept replaying it. Maybe I needed to remind myself I wasn't crazy, that this was real. Suddenly, there was a knock on the back door. I froze. No one ever uses that entrance. Another knock, louder this time. I grabbed the heavy flashlight from my counter and approached slowly. "Who is it?" I called out. No answer. I checked the peephole. It was dark. I hesitated, then unlatched the door and cracked it open just enough to see a manila envelope on the ground. No one in sight. I brought it inside with trembling hands. No return address, just my name written across the front. Inside, photos, dozens. Me walking home, me locking the studio, me reading in bed, taken through the window. My blood turned to ice. At the bottom of the stack, a sticky note. "Leave, or we release everything." I backed away, sat on the floor, heart racing. This wasn't business. This was psychological warfare. I didn't sleep that night. I barely breathed. The next morning, I called Diane, the owner of the vintage bookstore down the block. She's been part of the neighborhood for over 30 years. If anyone would believe me, it'd be her. When she arrived, I showed her everything. The photos, the note, the camera. Her face went pale. "This isn't just intimidation," she said quietly. "This is a takedown." I nodded. "And no one's doing anything to stop it." She sat down beside me. "Then we will." We made a plan. That weekend, the neighborhood business owners were gathering for an emergency meeting. I would share my story. Every gritty detail. The stalking, the photos, the threats. If no one else was going to fight for me, then I'd force them to see the truth with their own eyes. 2 days later, the meeting room was packed. I stood up, heart pounding, and laid the photos out one by one. Gasps. Outrage. Finally, someone believed me. But just as I finished, the door to the meeting room opened. Everyone turned. Fiona Langston walked in, calm, smiling, holding something in her hand. She set it on the table in front of me, a second manila envelope. And with a voice smooth as honey, she said, "You should be careful who you trust, Callie. You're not the only one being watched." I didn't open the envelope right away. Not in front of everyone. Not with Fiona standing there like a queen unveiling the next phase of her cruelty. I slid it off the table and looked her in the eye. "Whatever you're trying to pull, it's not going to work." She tilted her head, that trademark smirk returning. "You always were so dramatic, Callie. Maybe it's time people saw your truth." Before anyone could react, she turned and walked out. Just like that. Calm, unbothered. I held the envelope like it might burn me. The rest of the business owners were rattled. Diane whispered, "Don't let her get in your head." But the room had shifted. Doubt had crept in. That's exactly what Fiona wanted. Back in my studio, I stared at the envelope for hours before finally tearing it open. Inside were printed screenshots, an old Tumblr blog I hadn't touched in over a decade, a few angsty poems, one post about struggling with depression after high school, a blurry photo of me at a party, clearly underage and clearly holding a red Solo cup. And then, the final page, a fake email exchange, made to look like I'd tried to bribe a parent for a good review. Except it wasn't real. I don't know how she faked it, but I could tell. The phrasing was off. The dates didn't line up. But to someone who didn't know me, it would look damning. There was a sticky note, written in the same neat, cruel handwriting, "Everyone has skeletons. You just forgot to lock your closet." My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. That was it. No more playing defense. No more waiting for the next attack. She wanted a war? Then war it is. I didn't sleep that night. I planned. By morning, I had a list, a plan, a purpose. Step 1, trace the audio recording. I still didn't know who had sent it, but Jordan, the tech-savvy guy who helped me after the graffiti, offered to help again. He used software to isolate background noise, and sure enough, he found something. A click, then a buzz, then, faintly, a distinct elevator chime. Wherever she was when she said this, Jordan said, it was in a building with an elevator. That's something. He dug deeper, checked property ownership records, digital fingerprints, even metadata from the audio file. It had been sent using a proxy service, almost untraceable. Almost. After 2 days of digging, he found something. A device ID tied to the file upload had been used to connect to Wi-Fi at a private co-working space downtown. I knew someone who worked there. My former student's mother, Adrienne, who'd recently pulled her daughter from my class without explanation. I called her. Adrienne, I need to ask something, and I need you to be honest. Did someone approach you about me? Ask you to lie? Silence. Then a quiet, shaky breath. I didn't know what she'd do to me if I said no. My stomach flipped. She? Fiona, Adrienne whispered. She came to my work. Said if I didn't help discredit you, she'd tell the school board my daughter was involved in bullying at her last school. That they'd kick her out of her magnet program. I didn't know what else to do. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tight. Did you send the audio? No, she said. But I know who did. And then she said a name I hadn't heard in years. Miranda Blake. I nearly dropped the phone. Miranda had been Fiona's best friend in high school. But during senior year, they had a massive falling out. Rumor was it had something to do with a boyfriend, but nobody ever knew for sure. After that, Miranda disappeared from the social scene entirely. I hadn't thought about her in years. Adriana continued. She works at that co-working space. She's been watching what Fiona's doing, and she's been documenting everything. My heart started pounding. Adrienne texted me Miranda's number. I called immediately. She picked up on the first ring. Callie? She said softly, like she'd been expecting me. Why are you helping me? I asked. She sighed. Because Fiona did to me what she's trying to do to you. She took everything. But this time, I'm not staying silent. I could hardly breathe. I have recordings, Miranda said. Emails, screenshots, proof of how she and Thomas are manipulating officials, fabricating evidence, and coercing parents. My voice cracked. Why haven't you gone to the police? I was waiting, she said, for someone brave enough to fight back. I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, I wasn't alone. Then she said something that chilled me to my core. But you need to hurry. Because Fiona knows I've been talking to someone. And last night, someone broke into my apartment. I met Miranda in a parking garage at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. She stepped out of a beat-up sedan, wearing sunglasses and a hoodie pulled tight. She looked over her shoulder 3 times before walking up to me. I brought everything, she said. Her voice was quiet, but steady. She handed me a flash drive. Emails, voice memos, texts, Fiona's whole playbook. How she got the parents involved. How she used Thomas's city connections to plant the building violation notices. Even a memo about the plan to have your business condemned. I swallowed hard. Why now? Miranda looked me dead in the eye. Because I finally realized being silent makes me part of it. And I've been silent too long. I nodded. No words. Just gratitude. By the next day, everything was in motion. Jordan helped me compile the evidence into a full report. Diane connected me with a local journalist named Marla who'd been investigating shady rezoning tactics for over a year. We gave her the drive. She nearly dropped her coffee when she opened it. Jesus, she whispered. This is enough to bury them. I looked her in the eye. Then dig the grave. 3 days later, it exploded. The article dropped at 6:03 a.m. By 6:45, it had already been picked up by 2 major outlets. Educator targeted in coordinated campaign by former classmate and city officials. Screenshots, quotes, names. By noon, Fiona's name was trending, for all the wrong reasons. Parents pulled their kids from her husband's elite tutoring service. The mayor's office issued a statement about launching an internal investigation. And the school board? They called an emergency meeting. By the end of the week, Thomas was placed on administrative leave pending an ethics review. But Fiona... Oh, Fiona. She tried to hold her head high. Tried to post one of her signature passive-aggressive Facebook rants about jealous women and cancel culture. But no one was buying it anymore. Her followers, those same moms who used to flood her posts with heart emojis, turned on her. Fast. Wait. She did what to that teacher? She paid someone to stalk her? You always seemed fake, Fiona. Now we know why. The final blow came during a live-streamed school board hearing. One of the board members, a former lawyer, read out loud from an email where Fiona literally wrote, "If we make her look unstable, no one will question when the studio gets shut down." Silence. Then murmurs, gasps. Someone in the audience stood up and yelled, "You should be in jail." And maybe she will be. I don't know yet if charges will be filed. But the damage is done. The businesses she once had in her pocket? Gone. The developers she courted? Backed out. Her marriage? From what I hear, Thomas packed a bag and moved out 2 nights ago. As for me, my studio's never been busier. Clients are coming in because they saw the article and wanted to support someone who stood their ground. I've had people from other cities reach out asking if I offer virtual classes. Miranda's working with Marla now. Turns out she's got a real talent for digging into systems and exposing abuse. Diane calls her our quiet warrior. And me? I'm still here. Still teaching. Still standing. Last week, I walked past the bakery where Fiona and her friends used to have their weekly brunches. The table was empty. I stood there for a moment, watching the rain hit the pavement. And for the first time in years, I felt peace. She tried to erase me, humiliate me, destroy everything I built. Instead, she handed me the match that lit her own reputation on fire. People like Fiona think they're invincible. They forget that people like me, quiet, stubborn, underestimated, don't just survive. We outlast.